Imagine boarding a plane on a cold November evening in 1971 with nothing unusual on the horizon, just another flight routine in the skies over the Pacific Northwest. Passengers settle into their seats, the hum of the engines blending with casual chatter and the shuffle of flight attendants. But among them is a man, calm, precise, blending perfectly into the crowd. He wears a dark suit, a neatly tied tie, and a black overcoat, carrying a briefcase that holds more than just documents. No one knows yet that in just a few hours, this man will commit one of the most audacious and mysterious crimes in American history, a sky hijacking that has puzzled investigators, journalists, and conspiracy theorists for over 5 decades. He is known simply as D.B. Cooper, and his story begins on Northwest Orient Flight 305, a domestic run from Portland, Oregon, to Seattle, Washington. The evening starts like any other, but what happens next defies logic and leaves questions that may never be fully answered. At 2:50 p.m., a man who identifies himself as Dan Cooper buys a one-way ticket under that name. He boards the aircraft, blends in seamlessly, and soon requests a drink. Flight attendants describe him as polite, quiet, almost unremarkable, yet with an aura of calculated composure. There is nothing about him that hints at the boldness and danger that he will unleash. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper hands a note to a flight attendant, a folded piece of paper that at first seems like a routine request or an innocuous message. But the note is anything but ordinary. It warns of a bomb in his briefcase and instructs that the crew follow his demands or risk detonation. The casual hum of a routine flight transforms instantly into a high-stakes game of life and death. Cooper's demands are precise. He requests $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by upon landing in Seattle. The airline complies, rushing to meet his exacting conditions while trying to remain calm and ensure passenger safety. News of the hijacking spreads rapidly across the city and soon dominates national headlines. The FBI launches a massive investigation, codenamed NORJAC, the Northwest Hijacking Project, dedicating hundreds of agents to track down a man who seemingly vanished into thin air. Every detail of his appearance, every interaction with the flight crew, every movement in the cabin is meticulously catalogued. He is methodical, clever, and unnervingly calm, a master of planning who executes a high-risk crime with a level of precision that leaves even seasoned law enforcement officials stunned. As the plane descends toward Seattle, Cooper negotiates landing procedures and ensures his escape route remains viable. Passengers and crew are moved, tensions rise, and yet he maintains an almost eerie calm. The ransom money is delivered, the parachutes are provided, and the plane refuels. In a final, audacious act, D.B. Cooper orders the plane to take off again and demands to be flown toward Mexico City at a low altitude with specific instructions for a jump somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington. And then, somewhere in the night, over a stormy, moonless sky, he vanishes. No one sees him land, no trace of him is found immediately, and the FBI is left with only fragments of evidence, a plane that lands empty, and a mystery that will haunt generations. The case captures the imagination of the American public instantly. Newspaper headlines scream about the mysterious sky hijacker, radio shows debate his identity, and television programs dissect every aspect of the crime. D.B. Cooper becomes a symbol of audacity, cunning, and the unknown, a criminal who seems to have defied the impossible. Over time, theories proliferate. Some speculate he died during the jump, falling into the dense wilderness never to be recovered. Others argue he escaped successfully, blending into society with his stolen fortune. The FBI receives countless tips, investigates hundreds of suspects, and yet decades later, the man known only as D.B. Cooper remains unidentified. an enigma that persists in the American imagination. The impact of this single event extends far beyond the passengers and crew of Flight 305. It transforms airline security across the United States, leading to reinforced cockpit doors, stricter passenger screening, and procedures that remain in place to this day. It sparks a cultural fascination with the daring, mysterious criminal, inspiring books, documentaries, and countless articles trying to piece together his identity. Yet despite advances in forensic science, the proliferation of eyewitness accounts, and decades of investigative effort, the case remains officially unsolved, a ghost story grounded in real-world events, lingering over the forests and rivers of the Pacific Northwest. D.B. Cooper's audacity is matched only by the enduring mystery of his disappearance. He hijacked a plane, demanded ransom, and jumped into the unknown, leaving behind a trail of questions but no definitive answers. The story unfolds like a high-stakes thriller, a real-life enigma that tests the limits of law enforcement, human ingenuity, and the imagination. And even today, the allure of the case persists. Amateur sleuths retracing his potential landing spots, treasure hunters searching for fragments of the ransom money, and historians examining every scrap of documentation, every flight record, every witness statement, all in an attempt to solve the puzzle that has confounded experts for more than 50 years. The legend of D.B. Cooper transcends the crime itself. It is a narrative woven into the fabric of American folklore, blending danger, mystery, and the ultimate question of whether one man can disappear without a trace in an age of rigorous law enforcement technology. It is a story that continues to captivate, challenge, and intrigue, inviting each new generation to ponder the audacity, intelligence, and sheer luck required to pull off one of the most infamous, unsolved hijackings in history. The sky above the Pacific Northwest remains silent, a vast canvas for speculation, myth, and enduring fascination.
As the investigation into D.B. Cooper's daring hijacking intensifies, authorities begin piecing together every minute of that fateful flight. The FBI meticulously interviews the flight crew, passengers, and witnesses, compiling a detailed timeline of Cooper's movements from the moment he boarded the plane to the moment he seemingly vanished into the night. Flight attendants recall his calm demeanor, the precise way he handed over the bomb threat note, and the unshakable authority with which he demanded compliance. Despite the tension, there is an almost professional politeness in his interactions, a chilling contrast to the life-threatening danger he imposed on everyone aboard. Once the plane lands in Seattle, the magnitude of the situation becomes clear. Law enforcement personnel swarm the airport, while a fuel truck waits at Cooper's instructions, and the ransom money is carefully counted and packaged. In a dramatic twist, Cooper instructs the pilots to take off again toward Mexico City, specifying low altitude and slow airspeed, perfect conditions for an aerial escape. This part of his plan demonstrates not just audacity, but a deep understanding of aviation and geography. He has clearly studied every potential variable, anticipating the challenges of jumping from a moving aircraft with heavy bags of cash and executing his escape without leaving a trace. The physical evidence left behind is scant but telling. The aircraft is inspected thoroughly, revealing minor disturbances consistent with the demands made by Cooper, yet no fingerprints or personal items identify him conclusively. Investigators examine the parachutes, the cash, and the note he handed to the flight attendant, each item becoming a critical piece of the puzzle. Over the years, tiny fragments of the ransom money are discovered along the Columbia River, but these provide more questions than answers, suggesting a possible landing site, yet failing to pinpoint the hijacker's fate. The wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, with its dense forests, rugged terrain, and unpredictable weather, becomes both a hiding place and a source of endless speculation. As the FBI scours potential suspects, hundreds of individuals come under scrutiny. Profiles are drawn, backgrounds are checked, and interviews are conducted. Yet Cooper's true identity remains elusive. He leaves no personal trace, no prior criminal record, and no connection to the available evidence. This lack of clarity fuels decades of speculation. Was he a highly skilled pilot, a military veteran, a criminal mastermind, or an ordinary man who seized an extraordinary opportunity? Each theory is dissected, analyzed, and debated in law enforcement circles, academic studies, and public forums. Every clue, however small, is examined against the backdrop of the larger mystery that continues to baffle experts. Over time, the D.B. Cooper case becomes more than a criminal investigation. It evolves into a cultural phenomenon. Books are written, documentaries are produced, and amateur sleuths retrace possible flight paths and landing zones, hoping to uncover a definitive answer. The story resonates deeply with the American public, perhaps because it embodies the perfect blend of cunning, daring, and the enduring allure of the unknown. Cooper's calm efficiency, his ability to plan and execute without detection, and his ultimate vanishing act create a legend that transcends the crime itself, inviting fascination, admiration, and endless speculation. And while law enforcement continues to close in on possibilities, the skies over the Pacific Northwest remain forever marked by the unknown path of D.B. Cooper, a symbol of one of America's most captivating unsolved mysteries.
The hunt for D.B. Cooper extends far beyond the initial hijacking, unfolding into one of the most meticulous, challenging, and enduring manhunts in American history. Immediately following the plane's landing in Seattle, the FBI mobilized an unprecedented array of investigative resources. Agents combed through airport records, reviewed every detail of the flight, and interviewed not only the crew and passengers, but also airport personnel, mechanics, and anyone who had potential contact with Cooper before the hijacking. Every ticket sold that day, every witness who saw a man matching Cooper's description became a piece of the puzzle. The profile that emerged was chilling in its simplicity. A man of average height, estimated in his mid-40s, calm, polite, but with a presence that suggested intelligence and meticulous planning. His signature black suit and neatly tied tie would become iconic in the annals of unsolved crimes. As the investigation deepened, the FBI realized the extraordinary challenge before them. Cooper had vanished without leaving fingerprints, personal effects, or any definitive trace of his landing. The terrain over which he jumped was a formidable obstacle. Dense forests, rocky river valleys, and unpredictable weather patterns provided a natural camouflage for someone attempting to disappear. Weather reports from that night show high winds, rain, and near zero visibility at low altitudes, conditions that could easily have ended the life of an untrained jumper. Yet Cooper executed the jump with a precision that suggested a high degree of training, possibly military or specialized in parachuting, leading investigators to explore countless leads in the armed forces and aviation circles. Meanwhile, the physical evidence recovered became central to the ongoing investigation. The ransom money, carefully bundled in $20 bills totaling $200,000, provided intermittent clues. In 1980, several of the bills were discovered buried along the Columbia River, sparking renewed speculation about Cooper's landing site and fate. Did he survive the jump and bury portions of the cash, only to lose or abandon it later? Or were these remnants a deliberate misdirection, intended to confuse authorities? Every clue led to more questions than answers, feeding a public fascination that only grew with each passing year. Amateur sleuths, treasure hunters, and conspiracy theorists began examining every scrap of information, piecing together elaborate theories about his fate. The FBI also scrutinized hundreds of potential suspects, creating detailed profiles based on age, military experience, criminal background, and geographic proximity. Some were dismissed quickly, while others remained under investigation for decades. Among the most famous suspects was a man named Richard Floyd McCoy, who bore a remarkable resemblance to Cooper and committed a similar skyjacking just months later. Despite initial excitement, McCoy was ultimately ruled out. The list of possible identities grew to include ex-military paratroopers, former law enforcement officers, and ordinary men who might have stumbled upon an opportunity to execute a high-risk crime. Each theory added layers to the legend, and each dead end only intensified the public's obsession. Public fascination with D.B. Cooper was amplified by the media, which seized upon the mystery with dramatic flair. Newspapers ran front-page headlines, radio shows speculated on his identity, and television programs recreated the hijacking, often dramatizing aspects of the story to heighten suspense. Cooper's calm, almost gentlemanly demeanor during the hijacking contributed to his growing mythos. He was not a violent criminal, but a calculated, intelligent figure who outsmarted authorities at every turn. This image of polite, clever, and audacious hijacker captured the American imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and countless articles attempting to unravel the enigma of his identity and fate. In parallel, investigators delved into the psychological profile of D.B. Cooper, attempting to understand the mindset of a man capable of orchestrating such a daring crime. Was he motivated purely by financial gain, or was there a deeper fascination with risk and notoriety? Behavioral analysts examined his calm interactions with the crew, his precise planning, and his apparent knowledge of aviation and geography. Every action suggested a disciplined mind, yet one willing to embrace extreme danger. This psychological dimension, combined with the physical evidence, created a complex puzzle that investigators have studied for decades with no definitive resolution. Over time, advances in forensic science and investigative techniques offered new opportunities to explore the case. Handwriting analysis, fingerprint technology, and even DNA sampling from items recovered on the plane were revisited. In some instances, these modern methods provided tantalizing hints, but never conclusive proof. Experts debated whether Cooper survived the jump, whether he assumed a new identity, or whether he perished in the wilderness shortly after leaving the plane. Each scenario was analyzed with painstaking detail, drawing upon decades of research, expert testimony, and field investigations. Meanwhile, the story of D.B. Cooper continued to permeate American culture. Novels, films, and podcasts retold the tale, often emphasizing the mystery and audacity of the crime. Amateur investigators retraced possible flight paths, mapped potential landing zones, and even analyzed wind patterns and terrain features to hypothesize where Cooper might have landed. Every discovery, every failed lead only reinforced the legend that a man could hijack a plane, demand ransom, parachute into the night, and vanish without a trace, leaving the authorities and the public in perpetual intrigue. The case of D.B. Cooper is more than just a historical crime. It is a study in human audacity, precision, and the enduring power of mystery. Each detail, from the flight crew's meticulous recollections to the sporadic discoveries of ransom money, contributes to a narrative that is both thrilling and confounding. Over 50 years later, D.B. Cooper remains an enduring figure in the American psyche, a symbol of cleverness, daring, and the unknown.
Decades after the infamous hijacking, the mystery of D.B. Cooper continues to captivate law enforcement, historians, and the general public alike. The FBI's investigation, known internally as Norjack, involved one of the largest and most methodical manhunts in American history. Agents revisited every scrap of evidence, scrutinized eyewitness testimonies, and analyzed the terrain where Cooper may have landed. The Pacific Northwest, with its dense forests, winding rivers, and rugged hills, presents a formidable natural barrier to any search. Despite these challenges, the FBI conducted exhaustive ground searches, aerial reconnaissance, and coordinated mapping efforts to determine possible landing zones. The very difficulty of the landscape, combined with the inclement weather conditions on the night of the hijacking, only deepened the mystery. How could a man disappear without a trace in such a heavily investigated region? One of the most compelling aspects of the case is the discovery of part of the ransom money along the Columbia River in 1980. A young boy found over $5,800 in $20 bills buried in the sand, cash that was confirmed to be part of Cooper's ransom. This discovery provided the only tangible physical link to Cooper's possible landing site and reignited public and investigative interest in the case. Yet even this clue raised more questions than it answered. Was this money buried intentionally by Cooper, or had it traveled naturally through rivers and erosion? Did Cooper survive the jump and leave a portion of the cash behind as a strategic diversion? The fragmentary nature of the evidence continues to fuel speculation, making it one of the most discussed and debated aspects of the case. Over the years, investigators examined hundreds of potential suspects, creating profiles that spanned military veterans, aviation experts, ex-convicts, and even everyday citizens who might have the opportunity, skill, and nerve to execute such a daring escape. Every lead was painstakingly vetted, but nothing proved conclusive. Among the most intriguing suspects were men with backgrounds in parachuting or the military, individuals who would have the training necessary to survive a night jump from a commercial airliner carrying heavy ransom bags. FBI files reveal extensive efforts to cross-reference these individuals' travel records, personal histories, and financial transactions. Yet despite decades of work, D.B. Cooper's identity remained a ghost in the system, untouchable and untraceable. The psychological and behavioral analysis of Cooper offers fascinating insight into his mind. He exhibited extreme calm under pressure, maintained polite interactions with the crew, and meticulously planned every stage of the hijacking. Experts suggest that he possessed a combination of intelligence, meticulous preparation, and an intimate understanding of aviation and geography. His ability to carry out the crime without violence, leaving hostages unharmed, yet maintaining full control, paints a portrait of a criminal both highly competent and audacious. The act itself transcends ordinary criminal behavior. It demonstrates calculated risk-taking on a grand scale, a deliberate orchestration of timing, environment, and human psychology. Modern theories about Cooper's fate abound. Some believe he died in the wilderness shortly after his jump, succumbing to exposure or injury, while others argue that he successfully evaded capture, living out his life under a new identity. Each theory is supported by fragmented evidence, circumstantial clues, and expert conjecture. Amateur investigators continued to retrace his potential paths, analyzing maps, wind patterns, and topography. Some propose that he had prearranged safe houses or collaborators ready to assist him in the days following the hijacking. Others suggest that Cooper, recognizing the extreme difficulty of surviving, might have meticulously calculated his jump to reach a specific, well-known remote location that only he knew. The cultural impact of D.B. Cooper is equally profound. His story inspired books, television specials, and films, elevating him from a criminal to a legend, a figure who embodies both mystery and audacity. The legend of a polite, clever man who outwitted authorities continues to resonate because it challenges conventional ideas about crime, risk, and escape. Each new theory, each recovered clue, and each examination of the case draws people deeper into a puzzle that remains tantalizingly unsolved. Meanwhile, the aviation industry itself underwent transformative changes as a result of Cooper's hijacking.
Airlines introduced enhanced security measures, including reinforced cockpit doors, mandatory passenger screenings, and stricter protocols for handling in-flight threats. These measures, born directly from the audacity of one man's crime, reshaped the way air travel was approached in the United States and beyond. Cooper's actions not only challenged the FBI and the American public, but also permanently influenced aviation policy, creating a lasting legacy in both law enforcement and civil aviation. The mystery of D.B. Cooper endures because it blends factual history with an almost mythical quality of daring. Each detail, whether a note handed to a flight attendant, the parachutes on the tarmac, or the few bills recovered years later, serves as a portal into a story that is part crime, part adventure, and part legend. The unresolved nature of the case allows imagination to fill the gaps, and each new generation brings renewed fascination, fresh hypotheses, and renewed debate over what truly happened on that foggy November night in 1971. Even today, Cooper's story remains one of the most captivating and enigmatic unsolved crimes in American history, a narrative that challenges our understanding of risk, planning, and the limits of human cunning.
Even decades after the daring hijacking, the story of D.B. Cooper continues to captivate investigators, historians, and the public alike. Modern investigative methods have allowed the FBI and independent researchers to re-examine evidence with technologies unavailable in 1971. Forensic science, handwriting analysis, DNA testing, and advanced geographic profiling have been applied to the case, yet every step seems to lead to more questions rather than answers. The elusive nature of Cooper's disappearance has made the investigation an ongoing challenge, with hundreds of files, witness statements, and leads meticulously compiled, cataloged, and continuously reviewed over the decades. Among the most compelling leads are the accounts of passengers and crew members, whose testimonies provide a remarkably consistent picture of Cooper's behavior. He remained calm and composed, issuing commands in a polite yet authoritative tone, demonstrating not just confidence, but a clear understanding of how to manage both people and situations under extreme pressure. Flight attendants recall his precise instructions for landing, the exact placement of the ransom money in parachutes, and the clear, calm demeanor that allowed the hijacking to unfold without violence. Such behavior hints at prior experience, possibly military or law enforcement training, leading many experts to speculate about Cooper's background. As investigators delved into hundreds of potential suspects, a pattern emerged. Many had parachuting experience, aviation knowledge, or a propensity for meticulous planning. Among the most famous suspects was Richard Floyd McCoy, who carried out a remarkably similar skyjacking months after Cooper, prompting initial suspicions. Other individuals with military or pilot training were examined extensively, yet no conclusive evidence ever linked any of them to the crime. Each lead was followed rigorously, including polygraph tests, interviews, and surveillance of personal histories. Even when suspects were ruled out, the case remained open, the mystery unsolved, and the legend of D.B. Cooper continued to grow. Geographical analysis of Cooper's potential landing zone has been a major component of the investigation. By analyzing the flight path, wind speeds, terrain, and the behavior of the parachutes, investigators have attempted to reconstruct where Cooper might have landed. The dense forests and rivers of southwestern Washington, combined with adverse weather conditions that night, create a highly complex and challenging environment for any search. Numerous ground expeditions, often involving volunteers, treasure hunters, and amateur sleuths, have combed these areas in hopes of finding traces of Cooper or the ransom money. While fragments of the cache discovered along the Columbia River provide tantalizing hints, they never confirm a definitive landing site or fate, leaving the wilderness as both sanctuary and grave, a canvas for speculation.
The discovery of the ransom money, buried in the sand by a young boy in 1980, sparked renewed interest and speculation about Cooper's ultimate fate. Some theories suggest he survived and deliberately buried portions of the money to retrieve later or to distract investigators. Others argue that the harsh conditions of the night jump may have led to his death, with natural forces gradually dispersing the money downstream. Analysis of these bills, their serial numbers, and physical condition has been scrutinized extensively, yet they provide no conclusive evidence of his identity. This partial evidence, combined with the lack of personal traces, reinforces the enigmatic nature of the case, ensuring that the story remains open to interpretation. Beyond the physical evidence, the cultural impact of D.B. Cooper is immense. He has become a symbol of audacity, intelligence, and the ultimate vanishing act. Books, films, and documentaries have explored the hijacking in depth, analyzing every aspect of the crime, while podcasts and online forums continue to discuss theories and suspects. Cooper's image, a calm, intelligent man who outwitted authorities, has inspired fascination and admiration, blurring the line between criminality and legend. He represents the perfect anti-hero, clever, daring, and entirely untraceable, a figure who challenges authority and defies expectation. Modern investigations have also applied scientific techniques to reconstruct Cooper's movements. Experts in meteorology, physics, and aviation have analyzed wind patterns, aircraft speed, and parachute dynamics to determine possible landing locations. Advances in forensic technology, including DNA analysis of items recovered from the plane and modern fingerprint identification, have been periodically revisited to extract new insights. Yet despite decades of intensive effort, the case remains unresolved. Every theory, from Cooper perishing in the wilderness to successfully escaping and living under an assumed identity, has passionate advocates and detailed arguments, yet no single conclusion has been universally accepted. The legend of D.B. Cooper continues to grow because it captures something quintessentially American: the tension between law enforcement authority, human ingenuity, and the thrill of mystery. Each new generation encounters the story with fresh eyes, inspired to explore, analyze, and debate. Amateur detectives map flight paths, simulate parachute jumps, and investigate historical records, all in a quest to unlock the secrets of a crime that was both simple in its execution and extraordinarily complex in its implications. Cooper's story is not merely about theft or criminal audacity. It is about imagination, daring, and the enduring power of an unsolved enigma to captivate the mind. Moreover, the influence of D.B. Cooper extends into aviation security, law enforcement protocol, and criminal investigation practices. Airlines implemented stricter security measures, including reinforced cockpit doors and passenger screening procedures, changes directly influenced by Cooper's audacity. Law enforcement agencies developed protocols for responding to airborne threats, and the case continues to serve as a case study in criminology programs around the country. Cooper's crime, while nearly 50 years old, continues to shape operational decisions and investigative strategies to this day, demonstrating that one man's actions can have far-reaching and enduring consequences. Ultimately, the story of D.B. Cooper is not just a historical account. It is a narrative of suspense, strategy, and human ingenuity. It is a puzzle that challenges our assumptions about risk, preparation, and chance, illustrating how one individual could exploit the gap between opportunity and authority. The case remains a testament to the limitations of law enforcement, the unpredictability of human behavior, and the enduring allure of the unknown. As long as the skies remain vast, the forests impenetrable, and the money only partially recovered, D.B. Cooper will remain an eternal enigma, a legend that continues to inspire fascination, debate, and speculation, a perfect blend of history, mystery, and myth.
Even as decades have passed, the story of D.B. Cooper continues to linger in the collective memory of America, an unsolved crime that defies explanation and challenges conventional thinking. Scholars, law enforcement experts, and true crime enthusiasts alike continue to dissect every known detail, yet each layer only seems to deepen the mystery. From the calm and meticulous manner in which Cooper executed the hijacking to the enigmatic disappearance that followed, every aspect of the case invites speculation. The enduring fascination lies not only in the audacity of his actions, but also in the complete absence of resolution. No identification, no capture, no confession, and almost no tangible evidence of what became of him after that cold November night in 1971. The legend of D.B. Cooper is reinforced by the very limitations of the investigation. Despite extensive resources, technological advances, and decades of methodical work, the FBI ultimately closed active investigations without ever definitively solving the case. This absence of closure has transformed Cooper from a criminal into a cultural icon, representing ingenuity, courage, and the thrill of the unknown. Historians and criminologists often point to Cooper as a singular example of human audacity, a man who meticulously planned, calculated risk, and executed one of the most daring disappearances in modern history, all without leaving a trace. His story challenges assumptions about crime and punishment, showing that sometimes careful planning and calculated execution can outwit even the most sophisticated law enforcement systems. Cultural fascination has extended far beyond criminal study. Cooper has become a symbol of rebellion, cleverness, and mystery in literature, music, and film. His calm demeanor and precise actions have inspired novels, movies, television specials, and podcasts that explore the psychology and strategy behind the hijacking. Amateur investigators continue to retrace flight paths, study terrain, and simulate jumps, while others analyze physical evidence and historical records to theorize what could have happened in the immediate aftermath. Each theory, whether suggesting a tragic demise in the rugged Pacific Northwest or a successful escape into anonymity, only adds to the intrigue. The story bridges fact and legend, creating a mythos that continues to captivate both experts and enthusiasts. The enduring allure of D.B. Cooper also lies in the psychological aspects of his crime. He demonstrated remarkable control under pressure, using politeness and calmness as tools of influence. He exploited the predictable behavior of others, the rules of aviation, and the gaps in security procedures to orchestrate a near-perfect escape. Behavioral psychologists have long studied Cooper as a case of calculated risk-taking, examining how ordinary human behaviors can be manipulated with precision. His actions serve as a study in human ingenuity, strategic thinking, and the art of remaining undetected. The fact that no one knows his fate continues to challenge our sense of closure and satisfaction, leaving an open-ended narrative that fuels imagination. In practical terms, the D.B. Cooper case had lasting implications on aviation security. Airlines reinforced cockpit doors, developed strict passenger screening, and instituted emergency protocols for hijackings. These measures, a direct consequence of Cooper's audacity, permanently reshaped commercial air travel and law enforcement approaches to airborne threats. Yet beyond policy, the case left a profound imprint on American culture, inspiring curiosity, debate, and a unique fascination with the enigmatic figure who dared to vanish into history. His story demonstrates how a single act can ripple through society, influencing policies, inspiring culture, and leaving an indelible mark on collective memory. The final enigma, the fate of D.B. Cooper, remains unresolved. Despite fragmentary evidence, recovered ransom bills, and the thousands of investigative leads pursued over decades, no conclusive answer has emerged.
Did he survive, blending into ordinary society? Or did the harsh conditions claim his life, leaving only partial traces behind? Perhaps the beauty of the Cooper story is that we may never know, and this uncertainty is precisely what gives the tale its enduring power. It's a story that continues to challenge, fascinate, and inspire, a perfect intersection of history, mystery, and myth. Ultimately, D.B. Cooper is more than a criminal. He is a symbol of audacity, strategy, and the unknowable. His story embodies the thrill of mystery, the cleverness of calculated risk, and the enduring allure of the unexplained. Each year that passes without resolution only solidifies his place in American legend, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to endure. D.B. Cooper will forever remain an icon of daring, a figure who captured the imagination of a nation, and a case that continues to intrigue anyone drawn to the extraordinary, the audacious, and the utterly unexplainable. His legacy is a testament to human ingenuity, the thrill of risk, and the captivating power of mystery, a story that will continue to be told, analyzed, and marveled at for generations to come.